This is Face the State for Sunday, July 6th. Hope you are having a nice holiday weekend. And it's a weekend that comes without a state budget. That's nothing new. We're looking back, though, at the history of budgets and if it really matters to the folks whose responsibility is to pass it. Giving food banks the help they need to help more hungry Pennsylvanians. That is a bill that has brought the politicians together already. And as we celebrate our independence this weekend, more Americans say maybe it's not worth celebrating right now. Get ready for some verbal fireworks next on Face the State.
CBS 21 News presents Face the State with Joel D. Smith, a look at the issues and politics that shape Pennsylvania.
Well, my first guest represents parts of central PA hit very hard this week by that severe weather. I know myself as well. Had to clean up some water in the basement. Cumberland County Representative Barb Gleim is here. Good to see you. How are the folks doing right now in your area that you've heard about? I know Carlisle was hit really hard.
Yes, I received a lot of phone calls after that storm, and we were out of power for quite some time that night. But the community comes together in Carlisle. It's a great community. We have, the 911 center right there in the heart of Carlisle, and great EMS and firefighters, and the cleanup continues, but we're doing much better. Thank you.
I know it's maybe too early to figure this out. I know there was a lot of damage, but is it the kind of damage that needs federal funding or federal support, and where you're looking at loans and things like that? What's your thoughts on if that's going to be a possibility?
I don't think so, because whenever I'm working with PEMA, they tell me that the county has to exhaust all of their funds before PEMA will kick in. So I think that, the county will work on this and see where we're at the end.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully people can get what they need out of this. Let's get on to some things that you've been supporting, some bills that would maybe bring more fairness to women's sports in some opinions, including your own. So this week, UPenn made that big decision to do a 180. They're going to ban transgender females in women's sports. So I'm sure you liked that reaction, but were you surprised that it came after they were one of the ones that were right out front in allowing them to compete?
No, because the whole fight really started at UPenn, obviously, with Riley Gaines getting, her win taken away from her trophy taken away from her from a biological male. So I applaud UPenn's decision, since they were at the very beginning of this. It needed to happen for a long time. I, along with a lot of my colleagues in the House, were one of the first to introduce the bill to protect women in sports, and we've been fighting that fight ever since. So I applaud UPenn, and I'm hoping that this goes across the whole nation at this point, and that Title IX is upheld, and that women will have their own category, that they will remain safe, and especially in their private spaces, and that they won't have opportunities taken away from them.
That's part of the decision as well, that they will have their own spaces. It won't cross over. I want to do a hypothetical. We know that one of the big reasons that UPenn changed is because of the pressure from the Trump administration, federal funding being threatened, things like that. If the Democrats had won in November, I know they were trying to push to change Title IX to be inclusive to transgender athletes as well. How different would the landscape be had Trump not won?
Well, in my opinion, they would be violating the very essence of Title IX and discriminating against, 98 or 99% of the women in sports. So now it just seems that we're going back to the way it was meant to be. And I'm very happy with the outcome. It is the law. So under the law, it says that you will lose federal funding if you discriminate against women in these type of situations. And I am so happy that the Trump administration is actually following through with the law.
All right, so that one's working to your benefit and your perspective. But what about the one you're really talking about at the state level? Protect Women's Sports Act, kind of stuck in the Education Committee. Where do you see it going now?
Well, we are probably focusing on the Senate Bill 9, right now, and that's going to be up to pressure from the Senate and, leadership. And I'm hoping that Chairman Schreier will lift that bill out of committee. It was lifted out of committee in 2022, and it passed the House in a bipartisan way. It passed the Senate, and unfortunately, it was vetoed by Governor Wolf. We are hoping that that exact same thing will happen, and that Governor Shapiro will see that this is an 80-20 issue, that the majority of Pennsylvanians want to allow women in sports to have their own category and be safe in their private spaces and have those opportunities, and that he will sign it into law.
Well, we'll see, though. Like you said, it could be a bit of a challenge. We know some other states are going through this as well. Idaho, West Virginia, the Supreme Court is chiming in on that one. We'll see if there's some trickle down there. I want to get to some state situations when it comes to the budget itself. You've been through these before. We keep asking people, are we looking at more days, weeks, or months? Give me a quick answer on that one first.
It's completely up to the Senate and the governor, and I can't from the House, I'm not in leadership, but I'm hearing some good things, and I'm hoping that something will happen by, the fall.
By the fall? I've heard weeks. You're jumping into months. Oh, my goodness. Well, let's get to the reality of this. Does it matter that you miss another deadline? I mean, are people talking to you saying, we elect you guys, this is your job, and you missed a deadline again? They can't miss their deadlines at work. Why can you?
Absolutely matters that we miss that deadline. Other than what is the reason for a deadline? It impacts nonprofits, it impacts school budgeting, it impacts a lot. So we need to stay at work, and we are in session Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week, and we'll just keep working until it's done.
From your standpoint, is there one sticking point that's really been tough to get through?
Well, yes, there's not enough revenue. This governor, has a $3 billion plus spend, and we just don't have the revenue to offset it. So the Senate and the governor are going to have to get together and figure out how to pay for the things that this governor is asking for or cut. Yeah. I'm a limited government representative, and I would love to make sure that we have a balanced budget.
All right, well, we'll get there. We know it's just a matter of when. And like you said, figuring out how much money we have to deal with is part one, and looks like we're not there yet. Hey, thanks for being with us here on this holiday weekend.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Folks, over the past few weeks, we have established a few things. Governor Shapiro signing dozens of bills into law. Let's talk about something. Some dealing with the budget, but, others, it's about, how about food donations? We're going to talk to the sponsor of that one. Even though you think your food might be expired, guess what? It could still help a lot of folks. Welcome back. My next guest just had one of those bills signed by the governor last week that we've been talking about. See, some stuff is getting done. And he's also been a part of the state budget negotiations. There he is, Philadelphia Democratic Representative Tariq Khan. Good to see you, man.
Joel, it's great to be on. Thanks for having me on, sir.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start with one of those newest laws we're talking about. It's now going to happen. It's the bipartisan support you got on this one as well. And it's designed to get more people to donate food. It expands protections for those who donate what some might think is out-of-date food. Take me through this one.
Sure. So I used to actually work at Starbucks, and one of the worst things at the end of the day was, at 8:59 when the store was open, you could sell the food, and then 9 o'clock you got to throw in the trash can, right?
Magically,
so,
yeah.
It's we got to stop doing things that are stupid and start doing things that make sense. And making sure that people are able to donate good food without fear of getting sued is something that I think is a no-brainer. So Representative Tom Jones from Lancaster, Lebanon, and I worked on this bill. It had been introduced in previous sessions. It was bipartisan then. Representative Melissa Schusterman, Representative Dave Rowe, previous sessions. I worked on a last session with Dave Rowe, and we got it passed into law. And this basically will just clarify that, if you are donating food, whether you're a giant, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're a church, whether you're an individual that's donating good food, the best by date is not going to be the determining factor whether you can or can't donate that food. So many food that is good, that is just past the best by date, is being tossed away. Food banks are not getting this food because of fear of liability. So this is clarifying that, listen, if the food is still good, you can donate it. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds of food every year that are wasted right now, unfortunately.
Okay, so is best by date and use by date the same thing?
Best by date is not a federally government regulated thing. It's something that the food companies do because if there's no date on the can, you'll have no idea how old it is. The reason why they have a best by date is because when grocery stores get food in, they need to be able to differentiate what's the new stuff and what's the stuff that's been there for a while because it looks exactly the same. The label's the same, the can's the same, it looks the same. So it's really a guide. It was never really meant to be an expiration date like we know, like infant formula, has an expiration date that you can't use after that. So best by date is really just a guide. It's really a recommendation. And so what we clarify in our bill is that this is just if it's past the recommended date, but if it's still good, you can still donate it.
Interesting. Is there one particular food that this happened the most to that just really got put to waste?
I think overall, when we look at food waste, the number one thing that we find and I'm not going through the dumpsters, but the number one thing that they find in the landfills is actually food. And there's some stat like 40% of the food that is in dumpsters is actually still good. So it's being tossed when it's still good. So, and in Pennsylvania, where we have 1.2 million Pennsylvanians going to bed every night hungry, a quarter of them being kids. We have to make sure that we're making it easier for people and corporations that want to do the right thing to get this food to where it needs.
Well, and this could also help. I know that's controversial. We don't know exactly what the fallout for the big, beautiful bill will be, but some are worried that it's going to cut into SNAP benefits and things like that, and maybe this helps fill some of that void in the future. Yeah,
it's unfortunate. This bill is for if it is passed into law, will cut probably 140,000 Pennsylvanians from getting access to SNAP benefits, in addition to the deep Medicaid cuts. So this is something that, like I said, this doesn't cost the Commonwealth anything. Yeah. It's something that we can get together. We're not going to agree on everything across the aisle, but this is something that Representative Jones, who's just a superhuman being and a smart legislator, that we were able to work together and shepherded it across the finish line. Yeah. No negative votes.
Well, that's the great thing. Yeah, people say, hey, you guys never agree on anything. We found something you guys agreed on. So that's great. Something you have not agreed on is the budget. You know that, my friend, and you're on the House Appropriations Committee. What's the biggest sticking point you see? It sounds like, as you heard from our first guest, that you're still having trouble on the revenue part of this. And where are we? How can you decide how to divvy up the money if you don't know how much money there really is?
Yeah, I think we've shown in the House that we're able to govern. We're able to get bills over to the Senate. We've been kind of doing our job, looking out, making sure that we're making those investments, constitutionally required investments in education, making sure we're funding our public transit, making sure we're helping families in need. We've made those investments. We've sent bills over to the Senate. So I'm feeling really good where we are in the House. Now, in Pennsylvania, we don't like kings. We never did. This is not a one-sided thing. This is a democracy. You have a House, which is Democratic-led. You have a Senate that's Republican-led. And unfortunately, a lot of the things that we've been sending over to the Senate, including transit funding, just have not been moving. Yeah. So we've been doing what we need to do in the House. The Democrats led. We got to make sure the Republicans are doing what they need to so we can get this to the governor's desk.
We will see what happens, but thanks for giving us the pulse, the update of everything. And it's a holiday weekend, so thanks for joining us, Representative Tarek. Good to see you, man.
Thank you, Joel. Appreciate you, sir. Happy 4th.
Happy 4th. All right, folks. He sounds patriotic. Are you? Fewer people say they're very proud to be an American. Our political insider will talk about that and the history of those late budgets. How late have they been in the past? Oh boy, take a look.
It's often been said in Pennsylvania there are just two seasons, winter and construction. But there is a third season that can last days, months, or sometimes almost a year, budget season. While most PA state budgets meet the June 30th deadline, we also have a past filled with threats and debts. In 2009, Governor Ed Rendell proposed a 16% tax increase, but found huge opposition, leading to an impasse of 101 days. In 2003, it was even longer, a 9-month standoff that almost had schools staying closed after the winter break. Eventually, the legislature approved more taxes on cigarettes and income to end that fight. And then there's the longest impasse in Pennsylvania history. In 2015, Governor Wolf's first budget became the first time in 50 years a governor vetoed an entire budget. This budget season made it past winter into spring, 10 months late. But that's not even half as long as the longest state budget season ever. 2015 in Illinois, it went not 10 months or 12 months or 24 months. It went all the way to 2017, a whopping 793 days. Their credit rating downgraded to the worst out of the 50 states. That brings us to Governor Josh Shapiro's budgets. In his first year, 2023, it wasn't finalized until mid-December, 5 months late. In 2024, it was officially 12 days late on improvement, but still not on time. All right, my favorite time of the week is here, even on a great holiday weekend. We're twinning right now. We both have the tie with that. You go in the red, you got the blue. We are patriotic folks. We're talking about patriotism in a second. We're the Democratic Insider. This is Mark Single, Mike Regan, looking good. Guys, we're talking about how close it will be for the state budget. You just heard some people talk about this, not sounding too optimistic, but how late are we talking here?
Gosh, it's hard to say. You listen to Representative Gleim. Fall?
Fall.
Oh my gosh. That's going to be something, but I don't know. I think something's going to break at some point soon,
Yeah.
and we're going to get it done. Probably, I say, within a month.
Quick prediction, days, weeks, months?
Much of the work will happen next week, and I think it'll pass the following week.
Okay, but part of their problem, and this is kind of interesting, is, we've talked to them in the past, they don't know how much they're getting from the federal government and some things, because that big, beautiful bill, which you call something else, is looming, and you don't know exactly how that's going to turn out. So how much more difficult is it when you're dealing with that too?
Well, it's very problematic because this big, ugly bill has massive consequences for Pennsylvania. Governor Shapiro and his budget office did a study on this and estimate that 300,000 Pennsylvanians are going to lose their Medicaid. Another 140,000 children are going to lose their SNAP food stamp benefits. That comes down to about 20,000 constituents in every single congressional district. I don't know how they can in good conscience vote for this thing.
It's hard when you hear those numbers, but are those numbers real?
Well, let me tell you this. I had a vast experience in this. When I was a U.S. Marshal, I was commander of the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force. We used to kick doors down and go in and arrest people who were 20-somethings, perfectly healthy, had never worked, their parents had never worked, and they have a shoebox with $50,000 in cash from drug proceeds. They're getting SNAP benefits, they're getting welfare benefits.
Were
they're
they
getting
American
Medicare.
citizens?
They were American citizens. So listen, if you're able-bodied and you can work, you should at least try to get a job before you're allowed to receive all these benefits to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars to Pennsylvanians and to all citizens.
And I think
you've got to get those people to
and
work.
most people would agree with that.
Well, but that's the truth. 80% of people who are receiving benefits do work. What Mike is talking about is that rare case that's an abuse that ought to be carried out.
And that's
no
what
question.
the Republicans are targeting.
Well, no. They're going way over.
They are not targeting people in need.
Just so you know, this is the largest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich. It's $1 trillion worth of benefit cuts going into the pockets of people who don't even need it.
And maintaining
That's
the biggest tax cut in the history of the United States.
And let me get to that real quick. The push has been by Donald Trump to get this done as soon as possible. He wanted a big thing. It's July 4th, and it's over. It's done. But that deadline, isn't that pretty arbitrary? These cuts you just mentioned, they don't end until December.
Yeah, I think he's also come out and said, hey, look, it's just got to get done. I said the 4th, but it doesn't have to be the 4th. So he backed away from that just to make sure it gets done.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
I want to get into how the governor's handling this. Josh Shapiro coming out this week saying, call your representative. And this was, I thought, the most direct I've ever seen a governor get into this. And he actually used some colorful language to do it as well. Let's take a look at that.
They need to hear from you right now. They need to know if you're in their district that you do not support this, that you don't want to see your neighbors getting thrown off of health care. And here's what I bet. If you happen to get your congressman on the phone, they're going to feed you a couple lines of bullshit. Let me explain what it is.
Okay, so he says, call your congressman and they're going to give you a bunch of BS. And he actually used that line. Was that effective?
I think it was, and I agree with the governor. You know, you're hearing this spin from the White House and from Republican congressmen about how it's not going to have an impact and all. That's nonsense. This is a massive impact on people. And in fact, they know that. Fox News came out with its own poll. 60% of Americans are against this bill.
Well, the hard part of that is it's so much in it that if you don't like some of it, I guess you're going to say you're against it as well.
I mean, what's coming out of the governor's mouth is really surprising. I think Trump derangement syndrome takes on different forms. I think sometimes cheering against the country is one of them. We need to get this bill done. It keeps taxes low. It takes away taxes on overtime for police officers, taxes on overtime for waiters and waitresses. It's a huge boon for the country. It is absolutely, I mean, the same guy who said literally 1 month ago that we are heading into the biggest recession in the history of our country. We're now NASDAQ, S&P, Dow poised to be at all-time highs.
Give them all the way back. Yep,
come on, let's go.
Those measurements are certainly back.
Just a quick final comment, if you don't mind. Government's purpose is to help those in need. It's not to make rich people richer.
And that's not.
That's what this bill is.
This is cutting taxes on the working class.
And here's the problem.
Cutting taxes on the working class.
It's very hard to find out what the results are going to be. The CBO says that you're closer to being right. So we'll see what happens here. But you also mentioned rooting against the country. So American pride apparently has fallen to a record low, driven by who knows what. Some of the things we're talking about here as well. Here are the numbers. There's a Gallup poll. They do this all the time. 58%, just 58% say that they are extremely or very proud to be an American. In 2004, so roughly 20 years ago, 91% said they felt that way. What's the number one reason this has gone down?
Well, that's disturbing because I'm one of those 91%. I'm extremely proud to be an American.
58%, right? Yeah, definitely.
You know, so but it's, I don't know. I think people should not get discouraged. What they need to do is to get active and get out and vote. The fact of the matter is they lost the presidential election by less than 1% of the vote. If they had started to demonstrate their American pride by voting, we would have a different president and different results.
30 seconds left.
I saw a different poll. 85% of Republicans are extremely proud of the country, and only 36% of Democrats.
Right.
So if what
Those
makes you
scoundrels.
proud is letting illegal immigrants come in the country, put men and women's sports, high gas prices, record high inflation, if that's what makes you proud, you're going to have a long 4 years.
And going with that, we just had that come up for a second. The Republicans, their approval rating among Republicans is very high right now. So it's definitely, that camp is much happier than the other camp, as we saw. All right, let's get a look at something else. Final holiday thing when we come back. It's the most influential presidents ever. And that doesn't always mean positively influential. We're going to debate that coming up. A nod to the idea to Smirkanish.com on this one. Is Donald Trump one of the most consequential presidents in American history? Most people agree on the first three. That would be FDR, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. After that, I would probably go Jefferson and then maybe Reagan or Obama after that. What do you say?
Those are pretty good calls. I think FDR was a tremendously influential, consequential president. But if I were to answer that question honestly, I would say yes.
Okay.
Donald Trump is one of the most consequential because he's an embarrassment and he's a disaster.
Okay.
So I have a severe man crush on George Washington.
Yeah, unbelievable in so many ways.
Definitely one of
So
my.
he's
But
in
the
there,
other
but-
two, I mean, Reagan for sure, because Reagan took the country over at a time where confidence and pride was at an all-time low. He completely turned it around. But Trump, look, Donald Trump has probably had the most amazing 2 weeks of any president, I think, in history. And I wrote down
A lot's
few
happened.
of them.
You got about 10 seconds.
Okay,
Quick.
so the 12-day war, destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities, the ceasefire in Gaza,
And-
NATO deal.
Okay.
NATO deal.
So he's
Supreme
saying
Court
yes,
victory.
he's in there on that 5.
And
Time
on and
will
on
tell
and
on
on
all
and
of
on.
that. Hey, folks, have a great weekend. Show some pride if you can.
That was 25 seconds.
Total. But the